Hello friends, welcome to this world of storytelling. So why stories? You see, stories always have a purpose. When we grew up, we listened to stories, and today we also tell stories to people. Now, can we learn something from our stories? We have used stories with our children to try and teach them something. Have we also learned something from stories? So today, friends, I'm going to take you on a beautiful journey of learning from the stories from our own scriptures. We'll look at the entire gamut of beautiful stories that we have somewhere grown up with and now perhaps forgotten, and also forgotten how to use them, how to learn from them. So what we're going to do in this interesting journey is we're going to listen to a few stories from our scriptures. We are going to understand them. We're going to learn few lessons of how we can use them in our leadership journey, in our day-to-day lives, and very importantly, learn also how to tell these stories to help other people to grow in their own lives. So where do these stories come from? We need to understand that the system of Indian scripture is very different from the system of scripture across the rest of the world. Scripture in India started firstly with, or all scripture starts with investigation. Investigation in the Western world looked outward into the existing material world, trying to figure out what this material world is and how it interacts with us. What are rishis? The word rishi means he who sees. And this rishi, or the set of rishis, they looked inward. They moved into an entire journey of moving inward, deeper and deeper into this consciousness that drives this entire world. And in doing so, they found answers to this entire world. There is a saying that says, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande, basically saying that what works in this microcosm works in this macrocosm. So the rishis went through this deep understanding and they perceived these amazing truths that drive this entire conscious world. So when we look at perceiving these truths, what these rishis, they perceived was called Shruti. Shruti, the word Shruti also means to hear. Can you see how, friends, beautifully they played on the language? He who sees also hears. All the senses are acting together, and there is deep perception of how this cosmos is working. Firstly, starting with oneself, and then expanding this to this entire world. So this Shruti itself, in general, we can call it the Vedas, is broken up into four basic parts. One part is called the Samhit, which contains the mantras, the Brahmanas, how to use them, the Aranyakas, how to use them meditatively, and then diving into deeper questions of the mere existence itself. And such questions were answered through various texts called the Upanishads. This part is called Shruti. However, this wasn't enough in the common man's understanding of how we can grow, how we can learn, how can this world interact with me? Why does lightning strike somewhere? Why does it not strike somewhere? What do I do when it strikes? How do I treat fire, which is also a great friend and yet can be my greatest enemy? How do I deal with water? And therefore, our ancients, they created a whole system of translating these truths into what could be transmitted through the spoken word. Such transmission is called Smriti, that which comes from memory. Smriti, again, we have heard of this, isn't it? Manusmriti, the book of laws. Now, Manusmriti isn't the only book of laws. There is Vishnu Smriti, there is Parashar Smriti. Unfortunately, during the British time, the British and the Western world believe in the book. And they came to India and they asked, "What is your holy book?" And our ancients, they showed them the entire library and said, "Choose." And they got confused. So they picked up one and said, "Give me a book of laws." So they said, "Fine, here is the Manusmriti." And they made that the codified law of all people who followed the Hindu Dharma. In reality, there is Yajnavalkya Smriti, there is Vishnu Smriti, there is Parashar Smriti, and so many other Smritis. These are hand-me-downs of the spoken word for law, for the way to live, how we deal with things that happen in our day-to-day life. Even that, however, wasn't enough. Because you can't catch hold of a small child and tell him that this is how the law works. The child doesn't understand law. It has to derive the law on its own. So therefore came stories. These stories were codified into a big group of 18 and somewhere a group of 108, what is called Puranas. The word Purana stands for that Pura, which is that which is old. Na stands for that which is new. So that which is old and ancient, but every reading gives us something beautiful, something new, something that we can learn, and hence the word Purana. These Puranas told us so many stories of how the creation happened through a storytelling medium. How the first level of creation happened, that is how this cosmos got created, and then how on earth life came about, and then how the people evolved in that evolution, how they dealt with the basic problems of good and evil, and so many interesting things, and then finally how this entire thing will wind down. One set of stories, and now I will not call them stories, are called itihasa. The word itihasa means that which was. Basically, history. Itihasa, people who understand the Sanskrit language or any of the Hindi language will understand itihas word means history. If you look at the historian and look at the significance of the historian, let us understand this. Across the world, we have so many histories. The histories of the Incas, written by the Spanish conquistadors. And what do they call the Incas? Tribals, backward, and so on and so forth. Let us understand the role of the historian in the entire structure of how we learn, how stories teach us, and how we can grow with these stories in our journey of leadership. Let us look at itihas in Indian context.